2024 has only just started, and in this new video, I'm going to be telling you my thoughts on last year, 2023. And there's going to be things that I didn't like about it and things that I actually really enjoyed about this year. So, yeah, I'm going to give you all my thoughts on the year, and let's dive into January. So I did mention before that in December of 2022, my granddad passed away from a lung illness. And yeah, it didn't really phase me at first. Like you see, I never really cried when I first heard the news. But yeah, in January of 2023, I went to the funeral home to say my final goodbyes to him. And still didn't cry. But then the following day, we went to the funeral, and when they started playing the sad piano music, that's when it really got to me. And that was the first time I ever cried in like um, 7 years. Yes, 7 years. And yeah, to add insult to injury to the funeral, Velma, if you're all familiar with that, is considered the most controversial and infamous cartoons on planet Earth. And that was released on the exact same day I buried my granddad, which to me is just a bad omen, like a really bad omen. Now, on the last days of January that I remember, I went to a place called Maribel, and that's in France. And we went there to go skiing because most of the skiing holidays we just went to places like Val Thorens like 4 times, and we went to Chamonix like twice, and only went to Austria, Kitzbühel, Austria once. And so we tried something new and went to a place called Maribel. And before I went to Maribel, I'd been listening to this song called what was it called? Your Woman. Yeah, it's called Newtown Your Woman, and I will leave a link in the description down below so you can hear that song to see for yourself. Because you see, every time I listen to that song, it always reminds me of Maribel, and I'm just getting nostalgic already. So yeah, skiing was brightening the year up a bit, and yeah, I enjoyed it. In February, I went to a place called the BFI in Bristol. And to be fair, Bristol was not like any city I've previously been to. It was quite big and very arts and crafty and stuff. And I do appreciate arty and crafty stuff. And some of the people, like not all of them, but some of the people over there actually admired me. Like, for example, there was this one girl who confirmed to be Russian, and she was actually really nice, and we got along well. And I also got along with these two other lads. I don't know if one of them was foreign, but I did show him like because I was like dead into classical music at the time and still am to this day. I showed him this song called Dance of the Nights, and he absolutely adored it. And so I basically got him into it. And then my personal favourite was this, like I can't give out the names because of private reasons or, yeah, all of that. He had like a long curly hair, and he was from London. And on the very last day, he actually gave me a hug and said, "I am gonna miss you." Like he just thought I was the funniest person in there. Yeah, he was a good man. I got along with him well, and ironically, he loved cryptid stories. You know, he watched Monster Quest and Mountain Monsters. You know, those two of my favorite programs, and yeah, I got along with him well. Um, yeah, that's another thing that I remember from April. I mean, one thing that did kind of make it nostalgic was the song that I was listening to. Like every time I think back to Bristol, I always think of that song, "House of Fun," and I'll leave that one in the link down below. And so if you want to listen to that song, feel free. After the BFI, I went to visit my nan because she lost her husband. I had to stay and help her, because she was like dead depressed during that time, and so I helped her out. And when I was in her house, I actually looked through some of my old stuff, the stuff that I used to play with, and I actually got a bit nostalgic off of it. The stuff from 2010, 2008, and all that. Yeah, it was good. Now we're moving on to March, and in March there wasn't really much there that actually happened during that time. But what I do remember is like going on Netflix and watching Puss in Boots and all that. The very first movie, because I was starting to become a fan of the second one, and then I was scrolling down, just browsing across it, and then I came across this show called The Creature Cases, which I have done a review on in the past, and watched the show and found out that it was made by the same people who did Octonauts, and so that made me like it even more. So yeah, I actually watched the show, and it wasn't really that bad. It wasn't like the typical kids shows where they're like like happy and smiling and all that. It was kind of like that, but not too severe. I mean, if you're familiar with the show Bluey, then yeah, it just acts like Bluey. It's like for kids, but has like a bit of a mature theme to it. Like it knows what it's doing. So yeah, I actually liked it. At the beginning of April, I managed to the Comic Con was happening back in Liverpool, and I went with my mate, and we both dressed up at these as clowns. Like my mate was the smiling one, while I was the frowning one, and we just walked around and took photos with people, scared a few. Yeah, we did precisely that. It was a fun time. I quite liked it, and then at the end of April was my brother's 10th birthday. Like he turned 10 years old, and I've been with him for that long. Yeah, he's grown quite a lot. He's a good kid. Now, I don't remember much that happened in May and June, so I'm just going to skip them two, and I'm going to go on to like July. So what I do remember in July is that we were taking my granddad's ashes, and we were gonna like spread them at some place in England called the Devil's Bridge, and it was in like the middle of England somewhere where they create like all these nice breweries and stuff, and at the same time I was watching this Russian program that has recently become a meme, and it's called Return to Treasure Island 1988, and it has that famous Dr. Livesey walk meme. Yeah, I watched that at that same time, and now every time I think back to going to that place in England, it just reminds me of that, Return to Treasure Island. So yeah, it was quite nostalgic, and I liked it. Moving on to August now, and this is probably the longest holiday I ever had. From the very start of August all the way up to the end, a 20-day holiday it was. Like usually the holidays that I go on or usually take like 40 days, for 14 days, but this one took 20 days because we were going to like, two separate countries. So we flew direct to Singapore, and then we traveled to Thailand and stayed in a place called Koh Samui. And Koh Samui was like the most unbelievable place. Like it's like Jamaica, but much bigger and had much more stuff. Like the food was gorgeous. It had proper Japanese restaurants, big massive elephants, these monkey circuses, the Pig Island, and many other things. And what I did like the most about Koh Samui was the time of day that we went. I mean, most of the holidays that we went to were like scorching hot, like they proper beat down on you. But ironically, we went in August, and August is Thailand's winter time, so it was the rainy season when we went. But it only rained like twice when we went. Like it wasn't like Florida where it like rained every afternoon. It was just raining twice, and the weather, it wasn't too hot and it wasn't too cold. It was just perfect. It was like England's temperature in the summer, but when you go into like the ocean or the pools, it's just normal. Yeah, it was. They weren't too cold. It was just proper good, proper nice to get in. Just cool yourself off. Yeah, and then at the end of the day, we flew back to Singapore and stayed. Unlike the first time we went, where we just flew direct to Singapore and then quickly jumped on another plane to go to Thailand. Instead, on the last week or so, we went back on the plane to Singapore and stayed there for 3 nights. We were only able to stay for 3 nights because it was a really expensive city, and so yeah, I quite liked Singapore. It was a nice place. I mean, it was a bit expensive, like, and we went to the Universal Studios. We went to um, the SeaWorld Centre and a few of the other restaurants, and we've been on top their famous skyscraper, which was cool. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it. And there was a song, like this Japanese song that I will put in the comment section, that actually does remind me of that holiday in Thailand and Singapore. So yeah, I enjoyed it. That's got to be the best holiday I ever had in years. Like out of all the holidays that I've been to, you know, Florida, Jamaica, Mexico, you know, just them places in general. Like here, oh yeah, Scotland and New York. None of them can beat Jamaica. I mean, no, none of them can beat Thailand. Like Thailand was absolutely got to be the best holiday out of anything. No others could come close to it. Moving on to September, and this is when I had my big 18th. Now, at the start of the year month, I remember going to like this Irish pub with me nan and granddad, and I had a few non-alcoholic Guinnesses, and simultaneously I was listening to the song Celtic Symphony for the first time, and became a fan of that song. And I'll leave a link in the description down below with the rest of the other songs. And then at the end of the month, we had my 18th birthday, and that was we went to this other Irish pub, and it was a lot bigger and a lot more ancient, more stylized. And that's when I had, you know, way too many whiskies at the time, and I got drunk. Yeah, it was it was very funny, and the most I ever see myself battered. But needless to say, I had a good time, and I really, you know, love to go back to that day. It was just amazing. Now, moving on to October, and in October I got me things sorted, my new camera, which I've got right here. So this is it. This is what I use to film Kabuki Legacy. And so with that, we got the Dragon frame working on the laptop, and at the same time I became a fan of the Boondocks for the first time, and it was a good show. And we at the end of the month we had my mate's birthday party, and this is when I got my first, you know, bit of muff, and I got myself a woman, and she's been chasing me ever since. Yeah. And what else? Yeah, at the following day I met this other young lad who was one of my mate's mum's son, and we went to see the FNAF movie, and that was the last thing I remember seeing on October. At the start of November, I remember going to this antique place in England, and it was a big, massive antique centre. And what made that day nostalgic is that I became a fan of two various things, one movie and one song. The song was called Carnival of Moscow, and I'll leave that in the description down below. And there's this other movie called Thief and the Cobbler, which my mate introduced me to, and I enjoyed the film. And then we had a bonfire night, which was pretty cool. And what else? Yeah, I started my job, and then that moves us on to December. I went back to Manchester for the very first time in 6 years, because most of the time we were just going into like Llandudno or Chester Christmas markets. So we went back to the last time we went to Manchester Christmas markets was back in 2017, and so we went back this year, and it was good. I enjoyed it. What was I gonna say? Yeah, also in December, I started to get used to my new job, and yeah, it was a good job. I worked at a Sainsbury's as well. Like the last job I had was a Marks and Spencer's, but this time I'm working by myself in a Sainsbury's, like from 12 to 8, and yeah, that's a good time because I get paid. And then no, yeah, and every time I think of my job, I always listen to this new Irish song called Shipping Up to Boston, and I'll leave that one in the description down below. So, another thing that reminds me of the whole work experience was this other song called Guts from the anime Berserk, and I'll leave that one in the description down below as well. Now, I'm going to talk about the year, my channel. So, I increased to 1k views for the very first time in December of 2022. But then when 2023 came around, I got like 3 videos that reached, 1k views. And so it was a big eye-opener for me, and it definitely shows that my channel's improving. And I've been getting like 100 subs on my previous videos. And yeah, my subscribers also increased as well. Like I've got like 92 right now. 292 subs, so it's close from getting 300 subs, and that's phenomenal. Now I'm going to tell you the stuff that I did not really enjoy about this year. So I did mention before that I went to a place called Bristol, right? Now, if you ignore the good people for a side, I'm going to talk about the people that I really did not enjoy the most. And so, Bristol, the United England, this place that I went to in England was way different than the place that I'm living in right now. Like this, like the people that I mostly met there, like the good ones were all right. Like they were more related to me, but most of them were like more hippie-ish, should I say? Like the peace people, hippies, and some of them were like goth people. Like proper full-on white makeup. The black lips and the jewelry and stuff, and some of the I didn't really like appreciate some of their personalities. Like there were like a few people that I accepted on well, a few people that I actually loved at the time, but just ignore them these days. And then there's the people that I have not really spoken to, and the people that I just didn't really like to begin with. So I'm gonna tell you about the stuff that these people like. You see, these people were like very different compared to the people in my neighborhood. Like none of them, like literally none of them, act like the kids that I know in my local town or even outside of my town. And the thing that I really bugged me the most about these people is that they act like, edge lords, like they look mean, they act mean, but deep down they are the most sensitive people you'll ever meet. Like I can't think of teenagers to be more sensitive in my entire life. Yeah, there were certain things that like the humor that I liked and the humor that they liked. Like there were some of films that they liked and films that I didn't like. Like for example, I basically went to Bristol just to, see how the professional stop motionists are made. But when I went there, they did show me like all the techniques, and I have got like the dragon frame on the thing that they showed me and the camera they told me to use. But at the same time, they were like showing us these like little short movies that surprisingly had they were like more woke, should I say, like the films that they were showing me. Like the people act woke, and so is the films that they were showing me. Like it all had something to do with like the environment and stuff. And some of these people were like proper big, shitbags, should I say. I'm not trying to sound mean or anything, but they did act like proper wusses. And some of them were like proper delusional in a way. Like there was this one Irish kid who I was once mates with. I'm not going to say his name for privacy reasons, but he was like the most sensitive kid I've ever met, and like he's a proper delusional as well. And this one time when I first met him, I showed him like this little video called "Scumbag the Clown," and it was on Instagram. And it was basically like this guy, like he does like all these cool masks and stuff. And so he had like one of his personas called Scumbag the Clown, which is just a typical gothy looking clown, right? And then when a few hours later, I was sitting down eating lunch with all the lads, right? And then I told them about the story I went to in Jamaica. Like I've been to the place in Jamaica, and then one of them said, "I thought you ate Jamaicans," and I just put on a bit of a frown. I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "That little Irish kid over there just told us it." And so I just walked over to the kid, right? And I told him, "Why you're saying all this stuff?" And he's like, "Because of the video you showed me." I was like, "What made you say? What motivated you to say that?" And he was like, because he had like long hair that resembled dreadlocks, and his name was called Scumbag, so that's why I assumed you hate Jamaicans. And honest to God, that's what that was gotta be the most delusional thing anyone has ever told me. Like I really couldn't tell whether he was genuinely confused or whether he was just saying that shit in order to get me into trouble. Because deep down, like to be fair, I can definitely tell that he was trying to get me into trouble, because even if he was confused, like people, like sane people would just go up to someone and say like, "Excuse me, what am I meant to make of this?" And then the person will tell them what it's actually meant it is, and then they go on telling people. Instead, he went off telling everyone and made me out like some fucking racist, mate. And so he's damn lucky that I'm not as violent as most of the kids in my neighbourhood. Like, trust me, lads, if you ever pulled that stuff around any of my mates or people in general in my community, then they'll think you're taking the piss and will most likely give you a bloody nose. So just be careful in what you say in future, mate. Like, don't make people out like racist, mate, because they will turn on you. and they'll definitely think you're taking the piss. Like, I thought he was taking the piss. I just, just thinking back to it, I'm glad I've unsubbed from him. And another thing that I'd like to talk about, now this is a really funny time, right? So me and the lads were like in the bedroom together, because it was like we had to sleep in the college, right? And because most of the kids in my school are like boisterous, not like extremely boisterous, like hyperactive, like boisterous, like that sort of thing. It's more like yay, yay, all that and stuff. And some of the kids in my school, like most of them are usually into like their football and anime, boxing stuff. And there's this one kid, right, who always like starts fights with someone, right? Not like a serious real fight. I mean, there are serious fights at time to time in my school, but that's only in the the youngest key stages. So yeah, there's not really that much violence in my years because we're older now. We can handle ourselves. So the kids will often like take the shirts off and like start making them out like boxers, and most people just laugh at it, and just some of them even try and join in as well. And so this one time when I was in the bedroom of the BFI, it was only like four lads, like there were no women or nothing, right? And I was like play fighting with the little Irish kid, right? And then I took my shirt off to make myself look like a proper boxer, and this was his reaction: no, no, I don't want to see your belly, I don't want to see your belly. Yeah, and so I just put my shirt off and like half questioned him a bit, because and that was the first time anyone's ever said that to me, right? And personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with a guy taking off his shirt. I mean, like, even if it was wrong, you wouldn't really be seeing them at the beach or like doing it in wrestling. And most people in my neighborhood just do it in public as well. And yeah, I don't see nothing wrong with him. And plus, yeah, my belly is the main reason why I got myself a woman in the first place. I mean, this kid was like a little tubby fucker. He's probably just jealous that I've got a six pack and he doesn't. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, again, there's nothing wrong with a guy taking his shirt off. Like in certain places, like an office and all that. But if it's like people your age or like being boisterous and all that, then that's fine, mate. Like it's not like you're trying to take your pants off, is it? I mean, that's even worse. Like the pants always stays on, but you can do whatever you want. You can either keep your shirt on or leave it off. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. And this is another thing that bugged me about the college. So they were quite uncultured for people who are like incredibly diverse. Like this BFI that I went to was like the most diverse, had the most diverse set of people than any other course or school that I've been on. And you see, I come from a different place compared to like all the other kids, right? And because I have an accent, I like say things differently. And there was this one goth kid, right? And she had like big, massive, painted eyelashes on her and proper white skin. And his skin was that white that I couldn't really tell if it was natural or whether it was part of her actual, you know, design and stuff. So yeah, throughout the past when I was like speaking to them on the Instagram chat group, right? They were all the gothic kid often comes up to me and starts saying, use the normal words. I can't understand the word you're saying. Like I don't even know whether they actually meant that in like a horrible, offensive way or whether they were just blatantly were saying it in an offensive way. But yeah, I did quite feel a bit put off by that because you see, I've been to like a lot of countries in the past. And they say like Jamaica, for example, I go to Jamaica and I can't understand the word they're saying, but I don't like, speak out and start saying use the normal words because that shit could, like, I find that to be a bit of a cultural appropriation. And in fact, they actually called me Weird Al at one point, because my middle name is Alan and I play on a accordion, which is in that cupboard over there. And so, yeah, they call me Weird Al for like that, and due to the fact that I have a weird accent, right? So I never really like that. In fact, if you are watching this, mate, then if I'm Weird Al Yankovic, then that makes you Tiny Tim, because I can't get over how much you look like him. And the last thing I'd like to talk about, and this is the thing that has really been bugging me throughout most of the year, and it is the animal welfare groups. And if you don't know what animal welfare groups are, they're basically like those types of people who say like, don't ride on a horse, don't dress up a monkey, don't eat a chicken and all that. And yeah, I'm gonna tell you like a thing that's happened to me and how I got to know them. So if you grow up in like farming communities, then it's highly chances that you are going to encounter a dead animal or a roadkill at some point in your life. I mean, I go on like these fields in Wales and there's like tons of sheep that have been died from natural causes, and you even have a chance of like seeing the bones and stuff. However, the roadkill is not a tip. It's not a it's nothing new in my part of the woods, and ironically, it is a local delicacy in my neck of the woods. Usually when I see a peculiar roadkill or a peculiar anything, I just take a photo of it and show it to people. And it's not just me who does this stuff. Thousands of people, throughout my outside of my country do it as well. Like, for example, there was a guy in New York, he found a rat the same size as an average house cat. And he was so surprised by its size that he just took a photo and showed it to his parents and showed it to a rat expert. I don't even think that it is illegal to show a dead animal to someone. I mean, even if it was illegal, they wouldn't really be showing it on like YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp, Google, or even the networks on TV like History Channel, Animal Planet, or National Geographic. I mean, those types of stuff show, loads of images of animals getting eaten by others, and YouTube showing those videos of animal decomposition. I mean, there's a lot of decomposition videos on YouTube that feature animals, and there was even a human decomposition video at one point, but that got age restricted. So this one time back in April, I was walking down my local town and I stumbled across these two animals. One was a squirrel and the other was a seagull. And I was so shocked because I've never seen, because around the same time, there was a lot of like, dead animal, dead rabbits like in the fields and all that, which was kind of weird at first. But then when I seen the squirrel and the seagull, it just surprised me. I was like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? And so I was that surprised by it. I just took a photo and put it on my story on my Instagram. And I even showed it to the kids in the BFI, right? And this is and I wasn't even expecting, like usually when I show them to people, their main reaction is, wow, what is all this? Like normally they're all dead surprised or skeptical when it comes to it. Like my mate Dom, no, my mate, one of my mates in school, right? He wants to be an animal carer when he leaves school, and there are certain his autism works different compared to mine. Like if you show him like a bullfighting ring, he wouldn't like it very much. But if you show him pictures of like a beached whale or a flattened pigeon on the road, he'd be all right with it. So when I showed the two animals to the kids in the BFI, I was not I was expecting their reaction to be like most of the other people's reactions that I've seen over the past. But instead, their reaction was like, oh, I didn't want to see that, get away, I'm not supposed to show that, you scare me sometimes. And so I was like half confused and a bit like, whoa, what the fuck, man? And then I actually explained the reason and why I showed them it, right? And the little Irish kid just came up to me and said, lad, for the sake of all of us, stop sending us this shit. And then I just simply said, you have my word. And around the same time, like when I forgot about it for a bit, and then like in the same month, there was a thing on the news about the Grand National Horse Racing, and that had like a big, massive protest, of these animal rights groups, and that's when it, just started coming back to me, and I was, starting to get a bit anxious over like showing them kids them videos and all that. I mean, not the videos, photos, sorry. Now, whatever you may view it, I actually found the way they reacted over it to be a bit exaggerated and childish. I mean, normally the people who I show it to are more like, skeptical, just look at it and then fuck off. Or some of them like, ee, or like, oh my. That's the type of reaction I get when I see one. I'm like, oh wow, or just simply look at it and then go away. I mean, in fact, I actually told me mate, the one who wants to be an animal carer, I actually told him how they reacted over it. And he actually put on a bit of a frown and was like, that's a bit weird. Yeah, he actually thought it was weird the way they reacted. And like I said, again, there's not really that many people who I know in my neighborhood or outside my neighborhood who has actually, freaked out in the way that they did. I mean, these were actually the only people who I know who actually have, freaked out over it and made a big deal out of it. Like, if the older gentlemen are not bothered by it, just, and I was actually at one point, during this year, I was walking down and I seen these two 9-year-old kids, right? And they were like walking down, they found this rat flattened on the floor, right? And they just stared at it for a few minutes and then just walked off. And these kids were like 9 years old, mate. Freaking 9-year-olds. And those people at the BFI were all like 16, 20 years old and making a big deal out of something that wasn't even that graphic. I mean, the two animals that I found, were not even, I don't even know if it even was a roadkill. I mean, even if it was, they would have been fucking like flattened and blood and all that. But no, I saw no blood and all that, and they were like in full body and stuff. So, ironically, I'm not even making this up, but it almost looked like they were sleeping. Yeah, just absolutely no scratches on them. So yeah, they were making a big deal out of something that wasn't even that graphic in the first place, and something that they've most likely seen in a hundred times in their life before. Speaking about the protest in the Grand National Horse Racing, it wasn't just that, but of several other things that I've been seeing in the past. Like, there was this one video that I saw on YouTube where this homeless fella's having his dog, right, actually had it as a pet, and this happened in France. And then these two couple just came over and took the dog because they thought that he was like bloody using it as a way of making people feel sorry for him. Yeah, which in hindsight, that was technically his dog and he had nowhere to go and stuff. And there was also these vegan people, like vegan animal rights people, that were like coming into like these barnyards and stealing the pigs and shit because they didn't want them to get slaughtered and all that. And there was actually these two other like vegan, like not the vegan teacher, but like vegan booty and this other lad, and he's like got short hair and a muzzy and all that. And he goes around Australia and England doing all these protests and shit. And then we've got the few other shit that's been happening. Like there was the I'm a Celebrity was recently getting like fucking criticised for how they were eating the animals and shit. Some of me teachers were going vegan. My granddad was going vegan because he actually thought it was cruel. He said to me that he finds it cruel at one point. Like, the only thing he eats now is fish, and that's it. He doesn't eat chicken, doesn't eat cow, doesn't eat pig, doesn't eat any meat products except fish because he thinks it's cruel. And then we've got like this one thing on Instagram. I don't even know whether this was a real story or not, right? But apparently there was this Japanese fella, he accidentally ran over a pigeon and got arrested for it. Yeah, one flying rat with wings was more than enough to throw a guy in jail. Yet there are fucking millions of kids in Israel getting their fucking heads cut off and no one's doing anything about that. Like, from my perspective, it really does feel like animal deaths are starting to cause more outrage and concern more than anything else these days. Honest to God, if any one of yous tell me that people are going to go vegan as a result of all this bollocks, I'd actually believe you. And I'm not even being sarcastic. So yeah, with the animal rights groups, rising and all that and becoming so overwhelming every day, it actually got me a bit worried, thinking to myself, was I in the wrong for was I actually in the wrong for showing those kids that photo, or were they just being too dramatic over it? I don't know, because most of the people who I've talked to about this story, how the way they reacted over it, most of them seem to be a bit on my side, right? Saying that some people are just, not as, mature as we are. Like, so like there are people who freak out and people who stay calm, right? And yeah, like I said, my mates did think it was a bit weird the way they freaked out over it. And like I said, there's not that many people in my neighborhood who do freak out over it. So yeah, with that flaw aside, I do think 2023 has been a belter of a year, and I'm gonna rate it right now in my year T list. So despite a few ups and downs that this year had for me, I thought it was a really good year, and I'm going to put it right there. In fact, I'm going to put it behind 2012 in the ST list. And if you're curious to see what my opinion is on these other years, feel free. I'm going to drop a link in the description or comment section down below, so make sure you check it out. And I'll see you all in the next videos.